For Burton. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to be more efficient with your documentation and specifically with writing SOAP notes. How much of your time do you spend every day just documenting? For most of us, the electronic medical record takes up most of our time, and it's also the biggest part of physician burnout for most of us. There are ways to be more efficient, though. It doesn't have to be that you spend more than half your day staring at a computer screen. So really, wouldn't you rather be reading a good book, spending time with your kids, or just about anything else rather than catching up on charts all the time? So the idea of a SOAP note is to be brief, to be informative, and to convey information to any future doctor or other provider who's taking care of your patient. So the key word there is really brief. You don't have to write a prose like Jane Austen or weave a plot like Tom Clancy in order to be an effective note writer. Really, all you need to do is include the pertinent information so that someone else can pick up where you left off, or when you come back to that patient, you know what you were thinking at the time. I've had some amazing colleagues who wrote tremendous notes. They included everything from where the patient lived, what kind of house they had, whether there were stairs up the driveway, what kind of support system they had, how many pets they had, and that was just the social history. The problem with that was that it took over an hour to write each note. And while it was a very, very thorough note, it wasn't always the most efficient either to write or to read down the line. SOAP notes don't have to be written to the standard of your college writing professor. There's no law that says your SOAP note has to have complete sentences. Fragments are okay. Nobody says that you have to have perfect grammar and punctuation. I've authored multiple books and even made an Amazon bestseller list. And trust me, I do know there are time and places for good grammar and punctuation, but your SOAP note is not it. Your SOAP note's there to provide specific information, not to be read as the next great American novel. I want to give you some tips today that, if you implement them, are going to give you back hours of your time every week. And that may sound like a big promise just to go over some tips for the next few minutes, but I've seen it work for dozens, if not hundreds of people over the last few years that I've been teaching how to write more efficiently. The first thing I want to point out is that bullet points are your friend. You don't have to write complete sentences for everything. Think of bullet points like the outline, or your SOAP note like the outline for your full story. You don't have to go into great detail about how your patient was trimming trees in the backyard, twisted the wrong way, and fell off the ladder. The dog coming to help was not necessarily part of the story. Really, all you need to say is that the patient had an acute onset of back pain after a 3-foot fall on Sunday. That covers things like location and onset, which are required to be documented for a pain complaint. The rest of it, while it may be interesting to you or to the patient, does not need to be included in the documentation. It doesn't help with future care of the patient. It doesn't help with the billing process. It's just, it's filler. And at that point, you're wasting your time to write something that neither you or anyone else is going to read down the line. The second thing that I want to point out today is template everything. And I know that most of you using an electronic medical record system have some type of template. The problem with it is that most of those are generic. They're made to be used by lots of doctors regardless of specialty or practice setting. They're not made specifically to you. So you need to make sure that you can adjust the templates and put things in there that you're going to use frequently and make it more efficient for you. One of the things that I find, and I use as a rule of thumb, if you're typing something or dictating it more than twice a day, it's something that you need to have templated. In fact, if you're even doing it once every day, I would still say you probably should have a template or a dot phrase for it on your computer, so that way you can save that time instead of writing out the same sentence or paragraph multiple times a day. When I first started out, my partner and I did not have the greatest EMR system. That's probably an understatement, but I'll just leave it at that. One of the things that I've found helpful back then was I had a folder with Word documents that were letters for everything from to consultants to referring providers, nurse case managers, attorneys, anybody who would possibly want information from me probably got a templated letter from that folder. Over time, as I worked at other institutions, those letters are now incorporated into more and more EMRs, which is great. I don't have to type in the patient's information every time I want to fill out a letter. All that can be pulled in electronically. That saves me a lot of time. I do consider myself to be highly efficient with electronic medical records and note writing in general, but I'm still learning. It's a process. You can always find ways to tune it up. Just make sure you think about it. Is there something that I'm doing every day or writing out all the time that would be more efficient if I could just click a button, hit a tab, F2 or whatever it is on your form that you're using to write in your electronic medical record? Is there something I could do to make it more efficient? Lastly, consider revising the order of your SOAP note. For a lot of us, probably all of us, the first thing we do when we get a note, whether it's the old-fashioned paper chart or an electronic medical record, is flip to the assessment and plan. We usually don't even read the first half of the note to begin with. We want to know either what was I thinking last time, what would we do with this patient the last time they're in, or even if it was from a consultant, what did they recommend, what did they think? You don't necessarily read the subjective and objective every single time, for better or worse. But that's the way most of us do it. So why not go ahead and put the assessment plan first, and then put subjective and objective afterwards? Now, even if it saves you 10 seconds a patient, saves you clicking and scrolling, that adds up. 20 patients a day, you've already saved 10 minutes times a week. Now you're talking about almost an hour a week of your time that you just freed up. Now, wouldn't it be worth it to change your order of your SOAP note to save that extra time of an hour a day? I could find better uses for it than scrolling up and down on the computer screen. And you look at it this way: most of you are probably seeing more than 20 patients a day. It's going to add up. There's 52 weeks a year. Assume you took 2 weeks of vacation off. That's 50 hours a year that I just saved you by making this one little change. Not bad, huh? For only a few minutes. So while I told you at the beginning of this, I can guarantee you can save hours of your life, and not to mention the headache and frustration of wasting time catching up on charting instead of being with your family. Go ahead and give these a try. Go ahead and go to Christopher Burton MD /SOAP, SOAP. That's ChristopherBurtonMD.com/SOAP. That's going to get you the free tip sheet. It's going to cover all the things that we talked about here. Start regaining some of that time back. Also, please share this with your colleagues, friends, your fellow physicians that you care about. Together, we can work towards decreasing the physician burnout, decreasing the headaches of working with electronic medical records. Until next time, have a great time with this free time that you're going to free up in your day. I look forward to seeing you for our next lesson coming soon.